Yo, good morning. How you guys doing? Okay, hold on. Let's try that again. Yo, good morning. How you guys doing? All right, that was better. That was definitely better. Well, we are so glad that you have joined us here this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rick, and I get to serve as your guys' worship leader and gatherings coordinator. And a couple weeks ago, you guys sent not only myself, but April and this team here to Belize, some of our BASM students and leaders, to just go and serve the local community there overseas. And so we have our trip lead, April Holden. Everybody make some noise for April. And then you can cheer for each of these ladies as I go down the line. And then we have Corinne. Everybody make some noise for Corinne. We've got Georgia, Trinity, and we've got Tessa. What was that? Well, we are trying something new. We just think it's so important to send students and send you guys to other countries or to other states to serve in missions. And so we are doing this thing called Sent Student Sunday. Anytime we send students on trips, they get back, we would love to just live debrief them. We feel like that's such an encouragement for you guys in the room to see what it's like when you serve, whether it's local missions or global missions, and what it looks like just to serve our communities, whether here or across the world. Because here at Bay Area, we believe in making passionate, maturing followers of Jesus Christ from here to the nations. So with that being said, we're going to just dive right in for a live debrief. How does that sound? That sound good, y'all? Sweet. All right, well, let's get some low-hanging fruit questions out of the way. While you're on a trip, you create really amazing bonds with the people that you're on the trip. We had a team of 21 ages ranging from 14 to 70, so it was such a huge split of a group. What? Did I steal your line? And April's getting mad at me over here. I'm so sorry, April. I'm so sorry, April. All right, great. No, I'm kidding. But we're going to go through, and as we make these bonds, we were all given like random nicknames throughout the trip. So we're going to hear some of those. Tessa, since you have a mic, would you like to start and go that way?
Yes. My nickname was Tesla because my name is Tessa. And Gary, at the first meeting, Gary's over there, guys.
Everybody say hi, Gary.
At the first meeting, he was trying to figure out what our three names are. And he was like, Georgia, Trinity, and Tesla. And I was like, okay, that's going to stick. And it did stick. So, yeah.
Sure. And any of these names, like, feel free to call us these names throughout the warehouse when you see us. That would absolutely bless all of us for sure.
Mine was Tarnacles and Tarnal, and because we were on the bus, and my sister, she's always called me Tarn and Tarnity, like since we were little, and then like they started calling me that, and then we were on the bus, and she started calling me Tarnals, and so and I was like, okay, as long as it's not something super weird like Tarnacles or like Tarnier or something like that, we're good. And then the next day I was like, what were you guys calling me yesterday? That was weird, like Tarnacles, but I meant to say Tarnals. And then they started calling me Tarnacles all week long, so, yeah.
Yeah, so pro tip, going on a trip, if you have something you don't want to be named, don't explicitly say that to the group, because then you will be called that for the rest of the trip. And this is example prime.
I don't think you're a pro.
What?
You're definitely not a pro.
I'm definitely not a pro. We'll hear about that plenty.
So a lot of people call me George, and one day, I think it was like the first day, Rick was like asking me what my name in Spanish is, and I was like, it's Jorge, because my cousin calls me it, and so that was like my name, and then Tessa tried to shorten it, and didn't really work that well.
So for spiritual reasons, we can't say the shortened version of that nickname for sure. Corinne?
It's on. My nickname was Cran or Carrot. They would shorten it like for cranberry, but that was basically it. Cranberry.
Yeah, like where did cranberry come from?
No, it wasn't even like it's just like.
You came up with cranberry.
Did I come up with cranberry?
Yeah.
Is it crayon like short
Oh.
cranberry or crayon like crayon?
Yeah. So because I'm from the South, and people where I'm from, still technically in the South, but people say, instead of saying crayon like it's supposed to be said, it's crayon.
Everybody calls it crayon. We all call it crayon.
Y'all call it crayon? It's crayon. That's a debate. That's a debate. We'll get into that later on in life. It's crayon. Thank you, April. Did you say crayon? Dang it. Crown? All right, that's a whole different. April, did you have a nickname?
My nickname wasn't very special. It was just Ms. Olden. But somebody up here did have a much more special nickname than I did.
I had so many nicknames. Race car. That was a good one. Okay, so we get there. Oh,
Yes,
you did get called
I did get
mom a
called
lot.
mom by everybody.
By everybody. Definitely team mom. So I get there. It's day one. Get off the plane. We go to the compound, drop all of our stuff out, and then we immediately go to the job site and just start to work. So we're building this house. And we get there, and Corey, who is our global missions partner there, he comes out and he's divvying up jobs, things like that, but he doesn't know everyone. And so he looks at me, and I was wearing one of my favorite shirts, my Santa Cruz t-shirt. And he looks at me, he just goes, Santa Cruz. He's like big, he's got a deep voice. He just goes, Santa Cruz, come here. And I'm like, kick butt nickname, yes. Like even April looked at me, she was like, that's a good nickname. Because that like never happens. And I was so about it. I was so stoked that whole entire time. And then we get like divvying up our jobs. Well, mine, I was in the back of the house, like going up and down ladders, taking care of stuff. And there is just, like we were rebuilding this house for this family. So there is house shrapnel everywhere. There's trash, there's debris, there's rocks, concrete chunks everywhere. And so I'm just kind of like maneuvering about, and there's drywall all over the place that had been broken up from the old walls, cut, things like that. So I'm about to go up this ladder. Well, I step on a piece of drywall, and then I fall 4 feet into the ground, into their 15-year-old septic. Yeah. And I'm like in it, and it's like wet, and I'm like, and warm. And I look at Corinne, and I'm just like, Corinne, what am I in? And she goes, that's poop, dog. And I was like, oh, and it was one leg. It was one leg that had completely fallen in. And so I like pull myself out. I go to the hose, and I start like scrub, and I had gotten cut, so I'm like scrubbing it out, like trying to like get clean. I feel just embarrassed and disgusting, and I wanted to die. And so then it was fine, and like I was embarrassed, and nobody's really talking about it. But then they were all talking about it. Let's be honest. And then one of the workers that was there, one of Corey's workers, his name is Dougie. He goes to Corey when Corey gets back to the site. He goes, hey, did you hear that Santa Cruz fell in the poop hole? And he goes, he did what? He comes and he like hunts me down. He finds me and he goes, Santa Cruz, you fell in the poop? And I was like, yeah, man. He goes, you're a poop guy now. And so for like the rest of the trip, I was just poop guy. Yeah. Oof, definitely. The Lord said humility. I was like, all right.
Yeah. So that day, Corey had given us strict instructions. Everyone got 1 shower a day, 15 minutes. Rick was allowed 2 for the day because we were not. That happened in the morning. So we came home for lunch. He got a
We were there for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
We'd only been there 2 hours. Yeah.
So it was pretty quick.
Oh, it
But
was so gross.
I mean, no one better on the team to fall in the septic than Rick.
Mm-hmm.
When he got off the plane, Corey's like, I'm going to have a hard time with this guy. And God quickly humbled him. So it was perfect.
Amen. Oh, gosh. Yeah, so you can call me that. That's fine.
Yep. So on Monday, Rick falls in the septic tank. But then on Tuesday, the youth, and then Rick, Dave, and Christian got to go down to the church it was their youth group, but it was more of a fun night. They got to worship and play games with them. So what was it like fellowshipping with other teens in another country?
It was much like our youth group here. It was definitely smaller, but they were all welcoming, and they just definitely they cared about us. They gave us food at the end, some mystery drinks too. But it was definitely welcoming, and it was fun to be around.
I would say it was really fun because it was a lot smaller than our youth group, and we were all and they were very hospitable, welcoming to us. And we had to write these songs. We were all just hanging out and stuff. And then we got into teams, and we were playing a bunch of games because it was a social, not a youth night that day. And it was really fun, and we like wrote all these songs and we performed them. But it was just really cool to see how welcoming they were and stuff.
Yeah, I would say I felt like it was kind of similar to here, except on a smaller scale and in a different country, but just in the same like energy aspect of it. It was blast. A lot of screaming, but a lot of fun.
Definitely a lot of screaming. Like
Lots.
y'all are loud. You know, on a Wednesday night, you guys show up for Amplify. Y'all are loud for sure. But like they were louder. It was nuts. But I mean, like, and everyone was so tight because that community is so tight. And so
Yeah,
like
that was really cool.
So and they like pulled this. It felt like we were just grafted right into everything that they were doing. So it was absolutely such a blessing. Well, Tessa. So that's Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday. We hit midday. We're at lunch. And Tessa and I were having a conversation, and I asked her this. I said, Tessa, what is your midweek takeaway so far? And you had talked about the way that people in Belize work, and also like the natural joy that is in Belizean culture. Can you just tell us more about that?
Yeah, we had 4 guys working with us that were Corey's employees, Dougie, Melbourne, Roy, and Leo, and they worked with us on the site every day. And I was really, I was just very moved by how hardworking they were. I think of 1 Corinthians 15:58, it says, "Be steadfast, immovable, always excelling in the Lord's work, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain." And I think it was just, they worked very hard, and like, they were really good at it, but also they were very joyful while they did it. There wasn't bitterness or anger. They were very patient and kind to us, because obviously they kind of know what they're doing, and some people on the team really knew what they were doing, and then there were those of us that didn't. And so it was good to have guidance in that area that was presented in a very patient and kind way. I mean, at one point we were pushing up dirt against Leo had just put concrete on the foundation of the wall, and April, Rick, and I were like putting dirt on to even out the ground. And I was like doing the thing with like that dogs do with their feet where they like dig.
Like on all fours?
No,
not
on 2.
Just on
2 feet.
all twos?
All 2s. And I either kicked the wall or a rock fell. She said I
You
donkey
kicked
kicked
the
it.
wall.
You said earlier that it was a rock.
Yeah, but
She donkey kicked the
You're
wall.
changing your.
I
okay.
trust April more than I trust
Whatever
myself. Let's be
it
honest
was.
here.
Whatever it was, something happened to the wall and it got a big dent in it. And I turned around and she was like, "You just donkey kicked the ball." And I was.
And it was like fresh concrete too, so it was like really nice.
Corey's gonna kill me. I'm done. I'm going home. And then she asked Leo, and she was like, "We have a bit of a situation." And he was like, "Oh, it's okay. I mean, yeah, like you probably pushed a rock up against it or something. Just be a little more careful." And he fixed it. Or foot. And I don't know. I really appreciated that because I would have gotten annoyed if someone did that to my work. And I just think the joy of the culture is just, it's a lot slower paced environment than here in the U.S. We're very go, 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 on to the next thing. And there they slow down a lot. And they work hard, but they also slow down and take the time to have community with each other. Yeah, there's just a lot of joy.
Yeah, I would also add to that of like, you know, they're so slow paced. And, you know, even for me too, like right now we're up here, like I'm watching the time and making sure that we're in time, like, cause there's stuff that's going on after this, everything is go, 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 go. And like, that's part of my job here. And to get there, like Dougie was going to college. And so he's coming to the job site from school and he's like on his bike and he was like, "Oh, it's okay if I'm like a little bit late. It's better for me to like be safe while I'm on the road on my bike than to try to rush here." And for us, it's like, "Oh no, we got to get there. We got to stop. We got to grab coffee on the way. We're stressed out because we're late." Different things like that. So it was definitely different to be infused in a culture like that for a week, to take a step back and be like, "Oh, you know what? We have time to do this."
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tessa talks about the joy that the people had there. Not only do the people have a lot more joy, and in our world standards, they have less than we have. Their dogs are the happiest dogs I have ever seen. This little dog that you guys saw in the video, they named her Baby. Her real name is Sky. The chain that she was on was for a pit bull that was now over at our compound, but this little tiny dog is chained up the entire time, skin and bones, and the happiest dog that I have ever seen.
Yeah.
So not only are their people more joyful, but their dogs are. I mean, it's crazy. All right, so our next question is for Jorge. So what was it like connecting with adults on the trip, and what was some of the wisdom or encouragement that you took away?
So coming into the trip, I was in the mindset of like, I have my two best friends I've known my whole life. They're like cousins to me. My mom who's leading the trip. I have people that I went on the trip last year with. And I was just like expecting to have like a good time with them. Of course, I was gonna like say hi to everybody else and like talk to them a little bit, but I never expected to have like such deep connections with them. Like the first day, Corinne asked me, because there's this guy, Dave, on our trip, and he, I guess she like figured out that we haven't like known him as long as we've known Rick, and she was like, wait, you guys don't know him? I was like, I've known him for like 24 hours, and it just like showed like that our connection was super strong, and we just like goofed off and had fun the whole trip. There was like no judgment there, and it was super fun. Every night we would play Uno, and we would play it till midnight. We'd play spicy Uno, so it got a little chaotic. And even though like we would play it till midnight, but then in the morning we have like devotions at 5:30, and it was just like we just had a blast the whole time, even though we were tired. My mom came up to me and Corinne one day, and she was like, "I know you guys are having fun with them and everything, but you still need to remember that they're your elders and you need to respect them." And we looked at each other, we're like, okay, like they're the immature ones, but like literally we would have paint wars like every single day. There was a guy named Smurfette because he would have so much blue paint all over him, and we like every single time that I would have like paint in my ear, she'd have paint on her legs, and we'd go up to her and be like, guess who did this? Dave.
Yeah, Dave got paint in his mouth at one point.
He did that himself.
It's still, but like there was like I walk around the corner and I see Dave, and Dave has like half of his face is like painted blue. It's like he's about to go and fight for his country's freedom. You know, like it's all in his mouth. One day, like Corinne's whole entire leg is painted. Waste of resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Waste of resources is correct.
Got some on your shirt too.
I do. This shirt specifically, there's paint all over it.
Yeah, but just like we connected in like a funny level, but also on a deeper and spiritual level. On like Saturday night, at night before we left, we all sat down. Well, some of us sat down and we just like talked about like how like the mission trip has meant to us and what God has been doing in our lives. So that was really special. And then the wisdom that I have got from the trip, I wouldn't say I specifically got it from someone, but on Sunday night, we were supposed to go to church, but all the churches were like doing an event or something, so we couldn't do that. And Corey, the guy who was hosting us at his mission house, he was talking to us about how we need to bear fruits like on our trees, and we need to give out gentleness and kindness and faithfulness to the world, because like, yes, they can know that we're Christian. We can be a tree, like a beautiful tree with no fruit, and they can know we're a Christian. But, like, how are they going to know like who we're about and like who we live for? And I think that's like important with having like non-Christian friends, so that they like, I feel like all my non-Christian friends know that I'm a Christian, but do they like know who I'm about? And so that really made me like consider a lot and got me thinking.
Yeah, that's really good. And Corey, who is our global missions partner there, he kind of gave us this mentality of like, let me look at your friends and who your friend group is, and I'll tell you where you're going to be at in 10 years. And so the people that we're allowing ourselves to be influenced by now, that is going to either be a detriment to us in the future, or it's going to be a benefit for us. And then for us in, following Jesus and being in community together, it only furthers the point, like, yeah, man, I want to be able to, walk into April's life, and there is good fruit that is bared there that will bless me, and like the same of any of you guys walking into my life and being able to pick off that good fruit from me, that it's a blessing to you, instead of having sour, nasty fruit that just leaves a bad taste of Christianity in somebody's mouth. So was super, super blessed, by that. Thank you so much, Georgia, for sharing that. Now this is for Corinne. For those of you who don't know Corinne, Corinne is a high school senior at Broadneck. Everybody make some noise. Woo! Corinne, as a student who doesn't regularly attend Bassam Sunday morning gatherings or Wednesday night Amplify. What was it like connecting with the other Bassam students on this trip?
It was really good. It really helped to show me the importance of community and being surrounded by other people that have like similar interests and ideas as you. We were all there for the same purpose to help build a house for Wana, but also grow in our faith. And it really helped. Like our friendship was able to form so quickly, and we were able to joke and then be serious the next minute, and then after that we would be joking again. And like we just all formed really good friendships, and I will have memories that will last forever, and hopefully friendships as well. And it just showed me the importance of how God will bring people into your life and then take people out that aren't going to lead you on the path that he wants.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so Tarnicles. Every morning, you and Jorge would go up to the upper balcony and watch the sunrise and read your Bibles. What was something that the Lord showed you during that time?
I think we touched a lot about influences. There we go. Yeah. And in Ephesians 5:15, it says, "Be very careful how you live, not as unwise, but as wise." And then in Proverbs 1:10, it says, "My son, if sinful men entice you, do not give in to them." And we did a lot of talking about our influences and who and what we let influence us. And like, for instance, like Jesus, he was friends with sinners, but he wasn't a sinner himself. So like, when we can still be friends with people who sin, and we can still be friends with like people who aren't Christian and all of that, but that doesn't mean we have to let them influence us and let them touch on us.
That's really good. Georgia, do you want to add to that?
So going off of what I said earlier with like bearing fruits and stuff, it's like the same thing, but like opposite. Like we could have our friends who are non-Christians, and they could be like bearing off of them like bad fruits, and it's just like taking off of them, like because we are influenced by them, and we should be like also we should be influencing others, and like not be surrounded by influencing like of bad, because we should be surrounded by people who point us to Christ.
Yeah, that's really good. And as you guys were sharing that, I was just reminded of look at Jesus and look at Jesus' life. Oftentimes we see Jesus doing these things that are countercultural to what everybody believed was supposed to be happening at the time, or what the Messiah was supposed to act like. And he was dining with people that were sinners, that weren't following him, that weren't even good people. And he was constantly in these environments with sinners around him, but never once did he compromise the fact that he was the Messiah to appease or to appeal to these people who were sinners. He was like, look at me and my friends. Look at this fruit. We've been talking about that a lot. Look at this spiritual fruit that is in our lives, and the way that we treat people, the way that we treat each other, that we look at the world. Never once did he stop doing that to be cool for whoever else, right? Or for the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He fully stayed himself, and then he called us to live in that example. So yeah, it's that's really, really good. April, as team lead, what were some of your expectations for this trip, and how were those accomplished?
So obviously the main expectation of the trip was to build a house for Wana, who is a widow. Her husband passed away 1 year and 7 months ago. We also wanted to love and invest in Wana personally, and I wanted to see the team unified and bonded together. So through just the process of prayer, God brought together an amazing team of 21 people, ranging from 14 to 70. So don't ever think you can't go on a trip because you're not qualified to build, you don't know anything about it. Y'all, we moved so many rocks in her yard. Anybody can do that. We dug holes. So, So God took natural abilities of electric and drywall and painting abilities, new learned abilities that we all had, and just pure determination from each one of us. And then we were able to get the house not to full completion, which is what we wanted to do, but we got it to exactly where God wanted it to be. Juana hadn't seen her house. She hadn't seen the takedown of her house. She hadn't seen the buildup of the walls, anything. And then we got there and it was a shell. And then we put in basically all the guts of the house. And then Juana came over on Saturday and got to see this house that we were able to, bring to this point for her. And then she said, I can come over and paint. I get to, I like painting. And so this was her opportunity to step in and put her own stamp on it. And then since Juana was homeless, she was staying in the mission house at the Hope House. So on the same compound as us, not on the same building. But we got to have regular interactions with her. We got to talk to her daily. We got to spend time with her, go to Bible studies with her. She went to the fun day that our team had on Saturday. We went cave tubing and ziplining. It's about 30 minutes from her house. She had never been there. So she got to experience that with us. One of her biggest things is she said she doesn't have joy anymore. From losing her husband to 2 of her kids straying from the Lord, she's lost her joy. Well, we had to go up to the house for a bathroom break one day. Rick and I are standing in the Hope House with her and talking, and she realizes that, Poop Boy is in her presence. And, we were talking about that, and she just got such a laugh. And then she remembers that I'm the one that got hit in the head with the 2x4, so now my head scratched. So it's just our pain was her joy, which was great that could be for her. And then the team bonding and unity, just being in bunkhouse for 7 days is going to bring you pretty close with anybody. We had 4 different groups to cook breakfast together, and then they would be on cleanup duty. Those were other ways that they got to bond. During our devotions, spending time in the Word was huge. We had impromptu worship times together. And then my favorite part were the games at night. The games at night got so loud between Happy Salmon and Spicy Uno. Yep, Gary's got a nice video of it. And the first night I was convinced that the cops were going to be called on us because they were so loud. The guys up in the bunkhouse thought that we were getting murdered because the sounds coming out of there was crazy. But, around that game table, so much joy and memories were created. And so it was just such a blessing to be on this team with everybody. So, Rick, what was your most challenging part of the trip, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, so I would say most challenging part of the trip is even before we went on this trip, I was trying to make every excuse to not go. With work, it's it's the week right before my birthday. Got back, and then literally the next day was my birthday, and then it was also build weeks for Easter, so I was I gotta be here, I gotta help Michelle, build the stages and the chapel and the main auditorium. What is it gonna look like in here for Easter? We were writing an Easter song, Jonathan, Brendan, and myself, we were writing this song, and was all right, well, we have to finish this song, it has to be ready for Easter, and I'm just trying to make up every excuse to not go, even though I was invited. And I go and I talk with Pastor Sean, and I'm just all right, well, tell me about Belize. What are we going to be doing? What's it going to be like? And he's telling me, he's you know what, Rick, you should really go. And I was okay, well, he's you should go ask Brian. So I hop over to Pastor Brian's office, and I'm hey, man, Sean wants me to go to this trip to Belize. What's it? Can I do that? Is that something I'm allowed to do? And he's well, let's look at the calendar. He's looking at it. He goes, I don't see why you can't go. You should go on that trip. And I'm all right, well, every barrier that I was trying to set up to not go, the Lord was just knocking down and opening doors for me to go. And so then I get on the plane and I get there, and the whole entire time I'm man, I'm the staff guy, I'm on staff here. I don't want to mess something up. I don't want anybody to see oh, Rick doesn't know what he's doing, or, Rick acts this way under pressure, or all this. So I had all of this social pressure. And then day one, I fall in that hole. And the Holy Spirit just like, as I'm pulling myself up out of it, the Holy Spirit just reminds me, he's like, man, like none of that stuff matters. Like the fact that you feel like you have to know everything, or you have to say all the right words, or all that stuff. He's like, that's not the point. The point is for you to follow what the Holy Spirit is leading you to do, and he's called you to be here and made every opportunity. So really all you're supposed to do is just follow that. And once like I had that realization, the rest of the week just like flooded in. There was like peace and calm, and we had such a joy and such a great time. So really like those challenges, yeah, they were difficult, and I had to get over myself, but also like just following the Holy Spirit and what he was asking me to do. Once I got to that point, like I felt so confident in what he was doing in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, so great that you followed that. And even as adults, we still, struggle with following that, obeying it, but yet then feeling the blessings in it once we do.
Yeah.
So a question for everybody. What was it like? How was it building the house? And what jobs did you have that you didn't think you'd enjoy?
Building the house was fun, especially to see the process. About like a year ago, we redid our basement, so everything was pretty familiar to me. The house was like, it was a decent size, but like not big enough to like fit 21 people in it. So I was mostly working outside, like all of us were. But so we were like painting, mixing cement, and digging holes and all that, moving rocks. So it was all hard, but like I don't think I loved anything, but I just like did it all to like serve God. So yeah.
So I was part of like the people that painted. That was really fun. I was able to paint a lot of bugs in the paint. I just don't really like bugs, so that was good for me. And then it was. And then
Just killing them alive. Painting them alive.
they were
yeah.
They were gonna die.
Painting them alive. I don't know how to word.
They were gonna die. And then another thing was I really liked using the pickaxe and like doing like the holes and whatever else there was to do. It helped to show me that I was able to do that stuff, and kind of got me out of my comfort zone. Like I wouldn't normally do that, but I was proud of myself for doing that and accomplishing that.
Thank you. I would say like similar, like there weren't really any jobs I like didn't enjoy, because I mean I didn't enjoy like certain jobs, but like it was fun doing it because like you were hanging out with like all of the team, and you're all like really close at this point that like it doesn't really matter what jobs you get. And I didn't really know what we were going to be doing going into it. I knew we were going to do some painting and stuff. And so I think it was really fun to like do the jobs and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, same. I mean, honestly, like, I'm not the most active person, so I don't do a lot of that heavy lifting and that kind of thing. But it's fun when, you're in this community of people working as a team together to accomplish the goal. I didn't have any jobs that I specifically loved or hated. I didn't like mixing concrete. That was probably the least favorite. But I think it was a really good time just doing jobs I normally wouldn't do.
Yeah, I would say for me, before the trip had even started, we were like trying to see everyone's strong suits and like, oh, who's good at this, who's good at this. And Dave, who went on the trip with us, and I are close friends. And so we were like, oh, we were going to learn how to do electrical with Ryan, who serves in production with us. And that was like, we were like, oh yeah, we're going to do electrical. We're going to learn how to do this. It's going to be like effective and efficient. And we're going to be like trio. It's going to be great. And then we get there, and Corey's like divvying up jobs. And he's just like, all right, well, who knows how to paint and spackle? And so then like me and Dave look at each other and we're like, we know how to paint. And so this, in the intention of like, oh, this is what we thought we were going to do, but then ultimately we're serving the Lord, and he says, no, I actually want you guys out here to paint like the outside of the house and things like that, because that gave me the opportunity to learn. Like Corey is very like mentality of if it is not done right, what is the point? Like, what's the point of doing everything if it's not done right? So he's like, if you don't paint this right, we're going to have to paint it all over again. We're going to be wasting resources, and it's going to be a waste of time for us to be here if it's not done well the first time. So Dave and I are painting, and I'm like, metal roof, I'm painting like the edges, the bottom edges of that, and just painting it in blue, and I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, this is such a bad job. Like, I have genuinely done a horrible job of painting this, and there's paint just all along like the bottom of the roof, like that extra roof that just hangs off. And I look at Dave, and I'm like, Dave, is this like all right? He's like, nah, dude, that's like bad. That's bad.
Bad's an understatement. It was terrible.
It was so bad,
terrible.
y'all, like genuinely. And I had painted roofs before. I had painted like houses and things like that. But it's one of those things where it's like, all right, like you get the job done. Then Corey comes along and he's like, no, like, you know, if you were to go into your house and you were to see this horrible job, like it would stick you in your side and it would be a nuisance to you. And he's like, we don't want that for Juana and her family. We want them to be able to look at this house and see that it's like fully beautiful and it's fully done well. So then it's like, I was grabbing like a wet paper towel or wet cloth and trying to scrub it off, and it's not coming off. The roof is so hot because it's metal, that stuff dried like almost instantaneously. So then we're like grabbing like rocks and knives and blades and trying to like scrape it off. But it reminds me of like scripture says, like everything that you do it as if you were doing it unto the Lord. That he was standing there asking you to do it, that Jesus was asking you to do this thing. So like, it didn't matter that I had to go back and scrape it all, but then everything else that I did after that, I tried to do it to the full best of my ability. And so that was such a blessing to learn.
Yeah, and even though we're in a third world country and we're thinking, well, this is great that we're even doing it, Corey had that mindset. He wanted it to be perfect for her. Just the pictures that we're getting now of her finished bathroom, it's a beautiful, beautiful house. And it's just such a good example for us to remember everything we do for the Lord, do for his glory, and just do it to the best of our ability, do it how we would want it done for ourselves. I think it was Scott when we were working in the yard and, moving rocks, cleaning up debris from the yard, and people were like, why are you doing this? And he's like, because this is what I would do in my own yard. So do for them what we would want done for ourselves.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So Saturday night, the trip is kind of culminating at this point, and we had just eaten dinner. We were just taking some rest, sitting next to the dog's house, and we were just sharing about the conversation moved from just like having a good time, oh, dinner was great, to like, man, what is the Lord really doing in our lives right now? Like, what has he been doing on this trip? And so, Corinne, I want to ask you this question. What was something that God did, showed you, or changed in you while you were on this trip?
So I learned 4 main things. One was the importance of not judging others. We found a lot of stuff that I struggled seeing, didn't enjoy seeing, and in the trash pile. So I struggled with judgment. And later that evening, I got my verse of the day, and it was something about judgment. So I felt really called out about it, and it was honestly good because I needed to recognize that and remember that it's not my place to judge. And it's not the exact one, but this is similar. James 4:12 says, God alone who gave the law is the judge. He alone has the power to save or destroy. So what right do you have to judge your neighbor? And it just really stood out to me and showed me that it's not my place to judge. Second is that community is key. Third is that God will bring you your group of friends. He will remove people that are not going to put you on his path, and he's going to add people too. And that's what God did for this trip. He really brought good friends into my life and memories that I will remember. And similar to that, being young and a Christian, it can be really hard because there's so many things that bring you to the world and not following God. So that was good. And then 4 is that you have to be the one to want to grow your faith and your relationship with God. You have to be the one who prays and goes to church and worships and just spends time in the Bible. And God is waiting and ready for you to call out and have a relationship with you, but you just have to be the one to put forth the effort and call out to him.
Yeah, it's really encouraging. And I would add to that too of, Corinne, I love how you said that last point. Like, we have a responsibility to do what we're supposed to do. And so God is calling us to these things. Well, we have to allow ourselves to be put in a place where we can experience that. I think in my own life, if I didn't make the conscious decision, if I didn't choose to say yes to going on this trip after the Lord opened all those doors, like, it wouldn't be me who's talking to you. And this whole entire experience might have been completely different. Who knows? But I'm reminded of this. The scripture tells us that the Lord has prepared a table for us. But it's our responsibility to sit at the table and eat. So many times I think of this as like, who in here has ever had a meal prepared for them? Like, I have. But we are all fully capable of sitting down at that table and eating the meal that's been prepared. It is not the chef's responsibility to come out of the kitchen and to feed you the food he prepared for you. It's your responsibility to eat it. And so as we look at our lives, every single thing that we do, every decision that we make, and the Lord is calling us to these places, well, we have to sit at the table and eat. We talked about this, Michelle talked about this as a part of our upcoming. Like, we have ways for you guys to serve. If you want to get your feet wet, if you want to, get a taste of what it's like to do missions in some capacity, like, register for Bassam Serves Annapolis. It doesn't matter who sees you or who's there. What matters is that you're saying, Lord, I've made myself available to sit at your table and eat. And then he's going to bless that. Look at how he's blessed these students, myself and April, of being on this trip. Whether you're serving locally, you're serving globally, right? Jesus is just asking you to say, hey, he's sitting here saying, I want you to serve me with your life. I want you to be in this relationship with me. I want to come alongside you as you do this, because I've given each and every single one of you your own gifts and abilities. And how are you going to use those for the Lord in the long run?